Hi folks, this is Tony at TravelScoot, and today we're going to show you how to switch, or rather remove and replace the throttle and the on-off power switch on the TravelScoot Escape. It's very similar to the Deluxe, however, with the single fold mechanism, I'm starting to call it the center fold mechanism, the junction box is no longer accessible through the little black cover. There's one, actually it's a bit of an improvement as far as protection goes, but that's going to be a little trickier. Anyway, we're going to start by removing the grip. If I can have a view pan up here, Kev. I've already started to remove it. These come off, in this case, by hand. This is a new grip. Thankfully, it's relatively easy to remove. And the inner sleeve. If these provide any difficulty, I think we discussed this in other videos, but you may need to use some WD-40 or soap water solution and let it seep in there for a couple of hours or something to make this a little less difficult. They can be tough to remove, especially if they've been on here for a long time. Generally, we send new grips if you purchase controls. If all else fails, take a carpet knife or something, or a sharp knife, and carefully slit these to remove them. Anyway, now that we've got this grip off, and we're going to do this with the throttle, I'm going to review the tools real quick that you will want to have at your ready to get this done. You'll want your 3, 4, and 5 millimeter Allen wrenches from your toolkit, a small pair of wire cutting pliers, a small screwdriver, and then just some sort of hook, pair of tweezers, whatever. This is a piece of fencing wire. Coat hanger is actually a little more substantial and better, and you'll see what we'll need that for. Anyway, first off, what we're going to do here is with your 5 millimeter Allen wrench, we're going to loosen the brake lever. That's the brake lever clamp screw, just so we can move it out of the way so it doesn't interfere constantly. Then with our 3 millimeter, we're going to engage the throttle clamp screw. A little tight. Let me go ahead and get some more leverage on it. You can see now it's loose. All right, got that covered. Now we need to cut the wire ties. There could be as many as 5 wire ties on here. Please be careful. So you cut only the wire tie and not the cable itself. Generally we include that too. Okay, now we're going to move around to the, I guess call it the new junction box area, and you'll see where these wires are. This is where the connectors are tucked in, and right here we're lucky enough to have hooked the throttle right away. There are 2 connectors in here. You can see the larger one is your on-off switch. The smaller one is the throttle, and that's the one we're going to be working with. If necessary, you can also cut this cable tie for the controller cable that comes along here, but right now we're managing without it. As you can tell, I'm working on a table, and I've got a piece of 2x4 to help, keep the front wheel off, so when we turn the steering column or when we turn the handlebars, it doesn't try to roll off or anything like that. We strongly recommend that you work off a table and not crawling around the floor and stuff like that. So anyway, now we've disconnected the throttle. Now we have the cable all by itself. Now, we're going to do the worst case scenario here, in that you're not going to easily be able to pull this out. This one's coming along fine, but we're going to show you the, I'll say, the maximum effort version of this. We're going to have to disassemble the folding mechanism. It's not complicated, but it just, it's something that's different from the older TravelScoots, and we're going to show you how to do that right now. So if, let's see, let's do the locking pin first, because Kevin's already set up over there. For that, you'll need your 5 millimeter Allen wrench. That engages the actual locking pin. And the 4 millimeter Allen wrench engages the spring bolt. that holds it in place. You'll have your bolt, spring, and then the washer. And now you just gently jiggle the steering column to take any tension off of it and set it aside. Okay. Now it doesn't lock anymore, no big deal. That does that removes one obstacle for pulling out the cable. Now we're going to come over to this side and we're going to remove the little circlip on the hinge pin. That's what the small screwdriver is for, and not rocket science. A little more involved than on the Deluxe, but just... And we just got lucky because these things love to go flying away, and if you've got pile carpeting or something, lots of luck finding it. So be sure to watch where it goes. I would jiggle this a little bit and push the pin out. Now the entire steering column is loose. It's not just going to flop out, but it can. So be mindful of that. You may want to have a second person helping you to steady this. It's not the world if it comes apart, but now you've just got the brake cables holding it somewhat in place, and it can be a little more work. All right, so next up I'd like to just remove this grommet. I'll also pop the brake cables out of their retainer. Just move it out of the way for later. Okay, so here we've got our throttle cable. Let's go ahead and pull that out the rest of the way. And you've got it. Just as a reminder, we address this as well. When we send out a new part, to verify that you've actually got the correct part that you need to replace, we always recommend plugging it in before installation and operating the scooter before you go through all this trouble. You can simply disconnect it, plug in the new control, whatever component that you have, and test it to see if that solves the problem. If it doesn't, oops, well, just leave everything intact because that's not going to fix anything if you remove it. And then we go on to the next step. However, in this case, we're going to go ahead and replace the throttle. Let's say this is your new one. Just slide it in place. Don't worry about attaching anything. You want to loom it, in this case, behind the brake cable. Through the grommet. And this is actually where everything makes a big difference. And that you've got those pins removed. And you can feed this through here. And this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. And you may want to have these wires out of the way a little bit. You have to get it started in the opening in the frame itself. Can you see that, Kevin? Or was that?
Yep.
Okay.
Right there.
All right. Good. And this is where you'll really need that hook. And of course, we're doing it from an awkward angle so we can film it. So that's a bit of an additional challenge.
When you're in there, you can actually see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it's just pulling it up. Just like that. One thing I like to do is really push these down and feed it in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, let's reconnect your throttle. Make sure it snaps into place and it's secure. You just go ahead and stuff that back in there.
Now that we've got all our connectors tucked back into the junction box, as it were, we're going to reinstall our locking pin and our hinge pin.
Let's go ahead and start with our hinge pin. You just want to tip this gently so that the hinge pin holds a line. A little bit of fiddling around to get it started. Jiggle, jiggle. There you go. And generally,
Sorry.
that's okay. This will snap back in place with a little bit of pressure. You can also use a pair of pliers to do that. Being careful not to scratch everything else up. All right. And now for our locking pin. Generally install it from right to left. Washer, spring and bolt, 5mm Allen wrench on the bolt head side and 4mm Allen wrench on the spring bolt side. Snug them up. Make sure it's operational. All right, we're good there. Then we can run this down. Run our grommet down to the base and massage it into place. We take our brake cables and reinsert them there. These brake cables also serve to protect the electrical cables from contacting the column too harshly. Then you'll want to install your cable ties on the bottom and the top. Actually, let me grab two cable ties very quickly just to demonstrate that. That's not really complicated to understand, but we're going to do it.
How tight do we want these cable ties?
We want them nice, strong, hand pull tight. One can over tighten these. You see what I'm doing here. There are ways of taking a pair of pliers and almost leveraging them so tightly that they, that they begin to chafe through the cable with movement of the cable. That's not optimal. Anyway, you'll install a few more up here. However you want to. We're not going to worry about that for right now. So we still have our controls up here loose, your brake lever and your throttle and your throttle control in this case. I'll have it in place. Remember your little sleeve. Shove that in there. Take your grip. Shove it on there till it stops. You can take a rubber mallet or a block of wood or something like that and tap it on there. That's okay. Now we can pull our throttle over to where it contacts the grip. That's about the right distance. Adjust your desired angle. About right here should be good. It's already tight there. Let's give it a little snug. Now you can move your brake lever over. So that's about right. We'll put it at the same angle as the opposite one. Tighten it up, and you are good to go.